Yes, I have an accent. Stop the presses. Call the UN. Some people are going to act like my accent is the final boss of authenticity checks. Like the moment I open my mouth, I trigger people harder than a Rickroll in 2025. So let's address the elephant in the room. Why do I, an Indian dude, sound like I fell out of an episode of Friends? And more importantly, why the hell should it matter? So stick around, because today we're myth-busting accent, spilling some personal chai, and backing it up with actual research. And hopefully convincing you that judging someone by their accent is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Let's go. Alright, first order of business, myth-busting the accent BS. Let's roll through a few greatest hits from the accent police. Myth number 1, if you have an American accent, you must have lived in America. Wrong! Believe it or not, you can pick up accents without ordering a one-way ticket to the USA. It's called exposure. Ever watch so much British TV that you start saying brilliant or might? Same deal. In fact, researchers in Scotland have found that watching a TV show affected people's accent. Scottish folks who religiously watched the London-based soap EastEnders started picking up London pronunciation quirks. I'm not making this up. This is peer-reviewed highbrow science. This study shows that the shows we watch can rewire our speech. So yeah, sometimes all it takes to sound different is a Netflix subscription and a dream. Myth number 2. You're faking it to sound cool. Ah, yes, of course. I wake up every day and choose my accent like a pair of socks. Feeling Anglo-American today. Might do Southern drawl. Alright. Listen, maintaining an accent 24/7 would be an Olympic level acting feat. If I were that dedicated, I'd have an Academy Award by now. The reality, your accent tends to stick naturally from what you're most exposed to. I didn't sit in front of a mirror and practice saying water as water. Trust me, pretending to have an accent is exhausting. My voice is on autopilot, and this is just the default setting it landed on after years of Western exposure and attending an international school. There was no secret board meeting where I decided that my brand would be Desi guy with a twang. Myth number 3. You must be ashamed of your Indian roots. How dare you? Just because I don't sound like a stereotypical Bollywood side character doesn't mean I have divorced my heritage. I love my culture, and my patriotism isn't measured by my pronunciation. Having a Western accent doesn't make me any less Indian. And last I checked, being an Indian isn't about how you sound. It's about, your actual identity and values. Crazy concept. Myth number 4. Accents are fixed. You're born with one and stuck with it. LOL, no. Everyone has an accent, and accents can evolve over time. If you move from Chennai to London, give it a few years and maybe you would start sounding a bit British in it. Language is super adaptive. Fun fact, linguists have noted that even within the same city and family, kids often have different accents than their parents because they're influenced by peers and media. Our speech patterns, they are shaped by who we talk to and what we listen to. Humans are basically accent chameleons. If we weren't, half of you wouldn't mysteriously drop your regional accent after 2 semesters in another state. Yeah, I see you coming back from Bangalore with a sudden polished neutral accent. It happens. So to recap the myth busting, no, I didn't have to live in California to sound like this. No, I'm not doing a cringy bit to sound cool. Yes, I'm still hella Indian. And no, accents aren't genetically glued to your tongue. Now that we have slayed those myths, let's get a little personal. Time for a story, kids. Gather around the campfire of my questionable life choices. How did I end up with this accent? Picture this. A fat Indian kid who makes excuses of stomach pain for 8 months because he doesn't want to go to school. Why? Well, because he doesn't understand what the teacher is saying. Why? Because she is teaching in English. Yeah, that's me. So what do? I start devouring Hollywood movies. No movie channel is left unwatched. And I was learning. I was assimilating the language like a machine. You could say it was machine learning. And it was going well, but there was one problem. The only association I had while speaking English was my TV. I did not speak to anyone in English because I had no self-confidence. So it was just me speaking to myself in this strange accent that I had acquired. As I grew up, I started listening to American hip hop and dived even deeper into movies and TV shows as Netflix entered my life. The YouTube channels I watched were all from the West: PewDiePie, The Sidemen, BuzzFeed Unsolved, and many others. In my head, my reality was English. Even my thoughts were in English. Eventually, I embraced it. This is how I speak. By the time I hit college, I tried talking during class presentations like this, in this accent, and I was immediately shot down by either my friends or my classmates. So I kinda kept it low-key after that. But it did make me realize something important. People make a lot of assumptions based on voice. And it's true. Humans are judgmental little creatures when it comes to accents. We all do it to some extent. You hear a posh British accent and you think smart and fancy. You hear a deep southern drawl and you think of whatever stereotype that you've been fed. And you hear an Indian guy speaking American English and you think, well, some of you think fake or try hard. I know that in the future, I will have complete strangers on the internet tell me that I'm betraying my people just because I don't speak English like they expect. The irony is, this is my genuine accent. It's not put on. It's a product of my upbringing and interests. So yeah, that's the backstory. I'm basically the cultural love child of Mumbai and Hollywood. And honestly, I wouldn't change it. If life were a video game, my accent is a fun cosmetic mod that I unlocked. Sure, it confused some NPCs along the way, but it's made things more interesting. Now, let's get into some hard facts and science to back up why accent is not equal to character. Because if my personal saga isn't convincing enough, maybe some cold, hard research will do the trick. Welcome to Accentology 101. I am your instructor, doctor, not a real doctor. And today's lesson is, your accent is basically an accident of your environment. And judging people for it is dumb. Don't believe me? Let's drop some knowledge. Accent equals exposure. We touched on this earlier, but let me emphasize. Accents are learned, not innate. There's a whole field of linguistics studying how our speech adapts. Remember how I basically got a Western accent from watching TV? That's backed by science. The EastEnders study I mentioned, it showed Scottish viewers picking up London slang and pronunciations just from TV exposure. And it's not just TV. Humans are copycats. We subconsciously mimic the accents of who we talk to or what we listen to. There's even a fancy term, communication accommodation theory, which basically says that we adjust our speaking styles to match who we're talking to, often without realizing it. It's like our brain goes, ooh, a new friend, let's synchronize our speech patterns to bond. We are all parrots deep down. So if you spend enough time immersed in any dialect, chances are you'll start sounding a bit like it. No witchcraft, just linguistics. Accent bias is real. Here comes the not so fun part. People do judge based on accents, and that bias runs deep. Studies have found wild stuff like people tend to trust speakers less if they have a foreign accent. Not because they're actually less trustworthy, but because the listener's brain goes, this is hard to understand, and subconsciously mislabels it as less credible. I kid you not, a University of Chicago study found that the heavier someone's accent, the more likely the listeners were to doubt what was said. They literally measured this on a truthfulness scale. Heavy accent speakers scored lower on perceived truthfulness even when they were saying the exact same thing as others. How messed up is that? Our brains can be jerks. They hear an accent and go, different equal to difficult. Difficult equal to might be wrong. It's a bias many of us have and don't even realize. So by that flawed logic, I guess some people might think that what I say is more trustworthy because I sound kind of Western, right? Meanwhile, someone with an heavier Indian accent could say the same thing and be doubted. That's absurd and unfair. It's bias, plain and simple. And bias needs to be punt-kicked out of the building. To flip the script, in India, sometimes a Western accent might get negative bias. Like people assume you're showing off or not one of us. Same crap, different direction. Whether it's dismissing someone as less credible or calling them a sellout, it's judging a book by its cover. It's shallow. Here's another gem. Familiarity kills the bias. A recent study showed that once people got to know someone, the accent bias practically vanished. If the speaker was a friend or acquainted, their accent didn't matter anymore to the listener's judgment. So in other words, if the haters actually took the time to hear me out, they might stop caring about how I say my vowels. Imagine that. Communication is more than accent. Let's talk understanding. Some of you might say, well, what if I literally can't understand a heavy accent? Fair question. Accents can affect comprehension initially. I won't lie. I've had moments struggling to understand someone else's accent. But here's the kicker. Our brains are incredibly quick at adapting to new accents. There's research where they found that listeners significantly adapt to a foreign accent within 1 minute of exposure. 1 minute. After hearing just a dozen or so sentences, people's understanding improved dramatically, almost as good as hearing a native speaker. So the whole "I can't get what you're saying" excuse doesn't hold for long. If you will actually listen, you will get used to my particular flavor of English pretty fast. Also, clarity and content matter more than accent. You can have a pristine Queen's English accent and still talk utter nonsense. Or you could have a strong regional accent and drop wisdom bombs. Case in point, heavy accents don't equate to low intelligence or poor English. Many brilliant folks speak with an accent. Their ideas aren't less valid because they pronounce schedule a little differently. There's a saying among linguists: accent is not a measure of intellect, it is a measure of experience. My accent tells you about my experience, not my IQ. If anything, having a mix of accents or a non-standard accent can be a sign of being multilingual or having diverse exposure. That's something to celebrate, not mock. Everyone has an accent, even those who think they're neutral. So communication boils down to this: are you listening to my words or just how I say them? Because if it's the latter, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Now I know there will be some keyboard warriors typing furiously in the chat. So let's tackle a few common criticisms about my accent head on. Buckle up for Internet Fight Club Accent Edition. Your accent is so cringe. Just speak normally. Define normally, champ, because normal is relative. To me, this is normal. To you, my normal sounds weird because it's not your normal. Telling me to speak normally is like saying, speak like me or the way I expect. And that, my dude, is not a reasonable demand. It's like telling someone, hey, maybe could you have like a different face? Yours is weird to me. No. Also, cringe? I find it cringier when people obsess over something so trivial. If my accent is your biggest problem in life, I envy how simple your life must be. Stop pretending you're Indian. Talk in an Indian accent. First, which Indian accent would you like to hear? There are dozens, if not hundreds. Punjabi, Gujarati, Tamil, we've got a buffet of accents out here in India. The idea that there's one Indian accent is hilarious in itself. Second, I'm not pretending to be an Indian or American. I'm just being me. I am Indian. I just happen to speak English in an accent that's a mix of all my influences. It's not like I'm walking around wearing a cowboy hat yelling, "Yeehaw!" Also, English isn't American or Indian. We borrowed it from the Brits and made it our own. So why exactly is one borrowed way of speaking more authentic than the other? It's so annoying. You think you're better than us because of your accent. My guy, an accent doesn't come with superiority points. That's your insecurity speaking, not me. I've never said or thought I'm better than anyone else because of how I speak. If someone assumes that, it might be because they unfairly valorize certain accents. I am proud of who I am, but not in a "I speak like this, therefore I'm elite" way. Chill. Don't project elitism onto me just because I pronounce tomato differently. It's distracting. I can't focus on what you're saying. If my accent is the only thing you hear, then that sounds like a you problem. I could be giving you the secret to eternal youth, but sure, let's obsess over my pronunciation of R. Look, the more you fixate on it, the more it will distract you. Instead, maybe practice a little bit of open-minded listening. You will adjust quickly if you try. And I promise, I am not deliberately using some alien accent beamed from Mars just to confuse you. Many people just understand me fine every day. You can too, if you get over yourself. Why don't you just fake your accents for your videos so people won't complain? Ah yes, let me get this straight. I should fake a different accent to prove that I'm not faking an accent. Aside from being ridiculous, that would actually be deceptive. I'm not going to put on an accent that isn't naturally mine just to appease some randoms. That would be actual fakery. Plus it would sound terrible and inauthentic, and viewers sniff that out pretty quickly. My policy: I speak how I speak. If I started altering my voice for every commenter with an opinion, I'd have an identity crisis and a very sore throat. Art pass. At the end of the day, the criticisms usually say more about the critic than about me. If someone is hung up on my accent, it's because of their bias and their hangups. I get that it might be unexpected or different to hear me talk, but different isn't bad. It's just different. And if your brain is doing the does not compute dance, then give it some time and perhaps a cookie. It'll be fine. All jokes aside, let's get real for a moment. Why shouldn't my accent matter? Because an accent is just a voice's fingerprint. Unique, interesting, but not the whole story. It's one part of me, but it doesn't define my character or the value of what I'm saying. I have spent years learning to be comfortable in my own voice. Literally. There were times I felt weird about it, times I got mocked, and times I questioned myself. But I've come to realize that my voice is my voice, crafted by my life's journey, and I'm proud of that journey. There's no right way to speak, only your way. If you've ever felt self-conscious about your accent, maybe you moved somewhere new, or you learned English as a second language, or you just sound different. I feel you. People might have tried to put you in a box or make you feel less than because of it. Well, screw that. Your accent is a badge of your experience, not a blemish. It tells a story about you, who you've met, where you've been, and what's influenced you. That's pretty amazing if you ask me. The world is getting more connected and mixed up. Hybrid accents like mine are becoming way more common. We are basically linguistic X-Men with cool fusion voices. And that's beautiful. It means cultures are talking to each other. It means little kids in India can sound American, and kids in America can learn Indian slang. And it's all good. It's how languages evolve and how global culture works. At the end of the day, communication is about understanding and connecting, not about fitting some preconceived sound. If you understand me and I understand you, then who cares what accent either of us has? Why waste time gatekeeping pronunciation when we could actually listen to each other's ideas? A wise linguist once said, "We all have an accent and they are all valid forms of expression." I couldn't agree more. So the next time you notice someone's accent and feel that knee-jerk judgment creeping in, pause and remind yourself, it's just an accent. Focus on the person, the content, the conversation. You might learn something new or make a new friend, or at least save yourself from leaving a goofy comment that I'll later screenshot and laugh at. So to all the lovely folks who will be hyperfixated on my accent, I hope this video helps you chill out. And to everyone else who gets it and doesn't mind how I sound, you're the real MVPs. You see beyond the surface, and that's awesome. Whether I say tomato or tomato, it's still the same soup, baby. And let's remember, it's not what you sound like, it's what you say that counts. Peace out.